Hello and welcome to the Prisma ORM Query Fundamentals course. My name is Xander. This tutorial is part of a whole course playlist, which you can access for free on YouTube. For deeper learning, the extended course is available for purchase at Udemy. You'll find all the resources and links in the video description. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly promotions, discounts, and Udemy course giveaways. In addition to the update method, we also have Upsert. So this is used when you want to update a record if it exists or insert a new one if it doesn't. Okay, so let's remember in the category table at least, the name and slug should also be unique as it is specified that way when we create the category. So when we insert a new category record, we need to make sure the name and slug doesn't already exist. Now, this is just an example. It probably isn't going to be very useful in an operational sense, but what it does show us is some additional tools and features and approaches that you can use when creating endpoints and using, in this case, Prisma's Upsert. So here we have the endpoint category Upsert, and we're going to pass in the request data so we can access the data sent by the client. Remember, this is a post request. We're expecting there to be data in this request from the client to update or insert a new record. Right, so we have the operation to upsert. So from Prisma category, so the category table, we're working on the category table. We're going to use the upsert. Now this upsert provides us a where component, update, and create. Obviously, that is working dynamically depending upon this where condition. So this where condition is going to check to see if the name and slug already exists in our table in one of the records. If it does, then it's going to use the rest of the data that's passed in to then update that record. If a record match is not made, then we make the assumption we want to create a new record. So we go ahead and create a new category. As like before, we have a response for both successful inserts or updates, and we can catch any errors should there be any. Right, so back into the container, let's go ahead and run the Swagger AutoGen, and hopefully now we have the endpoint available for us to test. So here it is, category Upsert. Right, so let's try this out. Right, so let's go for something that we can recognize and utilize. So let's first of all build a new category, right? Let's see if we can do this. So parent ID, let's just go for null for now, is active, true, and level, let's just call this level 1. Okay, so I'll copy that and let's go ahead and insert that. So it looks like we have an error upserting this category. So the problem lies here in the name slug area, where we're trying to run this where condition and specify that the name and slug being used must be unique together. Now, if we take a look at our schema, in actual fact, we've supplied unique for both slug and name, but they are not composite unique constraints or compound unique constraints, sorry. Now, if we were to, for example, to have a compound unique constraint, then we would probably need to supply something like this. So we do have, I think we do have this somewhere in one of our tables, or at least we should have in the many-to-many link tables. I thought we did add one of these. Doesn't look like we have, so we might need to add that a bit later. So this is just going to ensure that the name and the slug together is unique. And in this scenario, that's probably not a very useful thing to have, because we want to make sure in actual fact that the name and the slug individually is unique. So we're not going to try that, but what we do is we'll just go ahead and change the record here, and we can just go ahead and supply just the single name. That will be absolutely fine. So we've made that small change. So now we're just going to run the where condition on just the name that's being passed in. Right, so let's go back to our documentation. Let's try that again. So let's remember A1, A2, execute that. And you can see this time we do, and we are successful inserting into the database. And of course that doesn't exist. So we haven't updated any records, but let's now try and use this to update. So remember that we're going to make the update based upon the name. So if we make a match with the name, it means that we're going to update the rest of the data in that record. So let's do exactly that. Let's change that to false and level 2. So we should now change the rest of the record that we've just created based upon this information. So let's go ahead and execute that. And this time it does look like we've done exactly that. So the name stays the same for this record that we've just created previously, but everything else changes. So to summarize, if you need a summary here, this endpoint allows us to perform multiple operations based upon a condition. If the condition is found that a record matches this condition, the name that we pass in, then we're going to perform an update on that record. If when we pass in the data from the client, the name isn't matched with a record in the category table, then we're going to create a new record. So do make sure before you use Upsert that you test all the possible combinations and you potentially validate any data. There's many ways to spin this, and there's many issues that can come from utilizing this if you don't use it correctly or if you haven't validated data correctly before performing the operation.